All right, we are in week 5, our final week of this Finding Peace in Pain and Chronic Symptoms skills group. So today we're going to wrap up, do a little bit more information about somatic tracking, troubleshooting. We'll summarize some of the skills we've talked about, talk about some next steps, and leave some time for Q&A. So last week we talked about pressure intensity, with which we tend to do life, and how that can actually increase or exacerbate our symptoms or amplify them. Perfectionism, even relational patterns like codependent tendencies that we can have with certain relationships or even with ourselves. Preoccupation, all that, getting up into the head, got to solve the problems all the time. All those types of things can really affect us and increase our symptoms. And then we talked a little bit about pattern interrupts, things that can kind of like, we can like shift, do something a little bit different. So if we're heading down that track, we can help the brain see there's more that we can do and practice that will help even build more evidence to our safety. And then we introduced a little bit about somatic tracking. So we'll talk a little bit more about that today. I'm going to move on past that. We just talked about that. Okay, so just a reminder, dialing down symptoms is going to require that our whole brain learns and knows that we're safe, even in stress or triggers, even in feeling emotions, even being around others' emotions or actions, even when moving or feeling a sensation. And we're going to need to do so with kindness and compassion and curiosity, without pressure, intensity, or perfectionism, and do life with ease in the direction of peace. Like, we just got to keep heading in that direction of peace. And so peace ends up being our litmus test as to how well our nervous system is regulated. If we're not, then we can just attend to those parts inside. Hey, what's going on? You know, I see a part of me doesn't have peace, so we can attend to that. All right, so I'm going to reveal what my ambitious mission of the group was in heading in the direction of peace, is that maybe there would be just a slight difference in perception of symptoms, even a little less fear or a little less danger signals towards sensations, a little bit of growth in perceived safety, a little bit less anxiety, or increased calm and peace. And if not that, then maybe just some more curiosity and compassion with what's coming up inside. All right, so to review somatic tracking, again, this is kind of where we are experiencing whatever is coming up in our soma, in our body, from a place of safety. We are just noticing it because sensations themselves are not dangerous. Pain itself is not dangerous. Sometimes it is alerting us to that we were harmed or we broke our leg and we need to care for ourselves, but the actual signal is not dangerous. So we can learn how to see these signals with safety, care for ourselves, to even if what's unfamiliar or what we have reduced our world to eliminate so many different sensations, we can begin more and more to practice a little bit of exposure to some of these feelings, even if it was just for 30 seconds. And then we go back to, what feels more comfortable. Maybe the next day, like a minute, and then we go back to what's more comfortable. So somatic tracking is really just learning how to have awareness and full permission of these sensations being there, because they may actually be telling us how to care for ourselves. We can somatic track our emotions coming up. This is just a review. So if we are starting to feel a little bit of fear or a little bit of anger, instead of just pushing it down, we can be like, how interesting. Like, where do I feel that in my body? And what is it telling me? We can somatic track with pleasant sensations. And we can somatic track our pain or our chronic symptoms. I just give the little caveat about doing it as less, because we don't want to like self-traumatize ourselves by forcing ourselves to somatic track when our pain is high. I mean, you can try, but it's a challenge for our brain to allow us to do that. So the process of somatic tracking is to name it. Like, wow, okay, there is this tightness, or this sharp pain, or this dizziness, or this urge to go to the bathroom, whatever the chronic symptom is. Meet it with permission to be there. If it helps you to personify it, great. So, okay, I see you, thank you for being here. I want to hear what you have to say. And then describe in detail how it feels in the body. Is it, using all the really descriptive types of words like texture, temperature, color, shape, size, anything like that. Then really ask if it wants to say something to you. And we don't want to shame it or just be like, no, I don't want to hear from you, just because it's uncomfortable. Because kind of like a little kid, just because they're really dysregulated, like they actually might just want to tell you, like, I'm scared, or I feel this way, or I just want you to be kind to me, or something like that. Or can we go play or do something different, And then the next level, which is an advanced level, is to even somatic track while you move with a sensation. So noticing how, wow, okay, when I do this, like it kind of seems to get a little bit louder or sharper. Well, that's interesting. Like, has anything changed? So you're always safety reappraisal, always triaging along the way and seeing that we're okay. So I remember doing this when I would walk, because I would often get a sharp pain in my left foot or in my left kind of groin area. Those were two very typical areas in the many chronic symptoms that I have had. But those came up a lot. And sometimes in my foot, it would just be like stabbing pain. And I would, have to really talk, almost like talking to my brain, like, okay, I see you. We didn't just step on something. No one just hit our foot. We didn't injure ourselves in any way. So I see you. Is there anything you want to tell me? And maybe I walked a little slower to just allow for it to be there, instead of just like being angrily forcing myself to take care of it. And at times, sometimes just treating it with a little bit of kindness, like it would kind of subside. Sometimes even would go away. Maybe it came back at another time, but like all of that helped build evidence to the fact that there was a lot of neuroplastic symptom going on. And so I haven't really had that foot pain in over a year or so, but I wouldn't be surprised if it pops up again at some point in time, that little extinction burst, to where my brain just goes there. But I know I probably need to attend to something actually emotional that's going on, because so many of us with chronic symptoms have been, to use a gross analogy, emotionally constipated for a long time. And so I need to kind of really start inventorying, like, what's going on? How am I feeling? Even yesterday, what went on yesterday? And what's been kind of brewing inside or in the last week. And then if I start to see like, oh, wow, it's been kind of stressful. We've had a lot of change. I can have some compassion on myself, and then kind of attend to that emotion, sort of somatic track with that emotion. And then by the time I've done that, often the symptom is really dissipated quite a lot. So this is kind of a step-by-step process that's just going to take some time to practice. So we're actually going to do a little bit of the somatic tracking practice right now. You are welcome to somatic track a pleasant sensation, a neutral sensation, or if you have a sensation in your body that's below a 5 that you're experiencing and you want to try it, you can use that. So you pick what you want to do, but I'm going to use a script that was given to us in my training with pain reprocessing therapy. And so if you would be willing to close your eyes, you can. If you don't want to, then just maybe allow your eyes to kind of relax and just gaze at something really neutral. And then take a couple deep breaths, and we're just going to be curious and go inward, and you'll kind of see the process of what we can do inside as I read through this. So make yourself comfortable, and I want you to familiarize yourself with your internal state and bring your attention to a physical sensation. I want you to ask a couple questions. You can state out loud if you're on mute or watching the recording. What's the quality of the sensation? Now we're just kind of being like a deep sea diver looking in, or going to a sculpture garden. So we're just kind of looking at it like that. We're kind of practicing the true scientific method. We're not making any judgments about it. We're just observing. What's the quality about it? Is it bumpy or soft? Is it loud or large or small? Is it hard? Is it heavy or light? What color would you put with it? Yeah, any temperature? Can you describe the location of the sensation? Is it widespread or is it localized? Now I want you to try and just watch the sensation with a sense of detached curiosity without any fear or judgment. You are just noticing it. You don't need to do anything or change the sensation or move it in any way right now. You're just noticing it and exploring it. You're just like a passenger in the car along for the ride. And what do you notice happening as you pay attention to it? Does it intensify or subside? Does it move around? What's the quality of the sensation now? Now, I know it might feel like something is going on in your body, but your muscles are there, your tendons are there, your ligaments and nerves are there. If you feel like something's going on, it's simply that your brain's overreacting, usually, to a perfectly neutral sensation. So see if you can pay attention to the sensation. You don't need to change it. You don't need to get rid of it. In fact, there's nothing even to get rid of. It's simply your brain making a misinterpretation if that's what it thinks it needs to do. So just pay attention to this really interesting sensation, knowing it's totally safe, and explore it. You're just a passenger in the car along for the ride. What do you notice? See if you can follow it. Isn't it amazing your brain can generate these sensations in different parts of your body? So when you're bringing your attention to the sensation, let it do what it's going to do. All you have to do is watch. So it's like you're snorkeling or scuba diving and you're just floating there and you see a school of beautiful fish. You're not trying to chase the fish. You're not trying to catch the fish. You're just calmly watching them. Your back is the ocean, and the sensations you're feeling are just those fish. And all you have to do is observe. It's just a friendly sea turtle swimming nearby, a friendly talking sea turtle. Okay, maybe that's too far. So how would you describe the quality of the sensation in this way? Like, is it burny, not burny like a man, but like burny or, tingly or spiky? Like, wouldn't it be amazing if that sensation was like, well, this 1% of me is feeling a little bit this way, Okay, ignore the accent. So bring your attention back to the sensation. Your brain is interpreting the sensation as if it's dangerous, like a scary lion. And we want to teach your brain that the sensation is safe, like a cute little puppy. The sensations may ebb and flow. It's just like listening to a symphony. In fact, we all have a symphony of sensations going on in our body at all times. And the violins might come in and the tempo might pick up. Sometimes the tubas might come in and it might slow down. Wait, I don't know if there are tubas in a symphony. But see if you can pay attention to the sensations. You're not trying to change them. You're not trying to fix them. You're just observing. You're like Magellan the explorer, or Columbus, or Dora the explorer, something like that. So watch the sensation, and isn't it crazy how your brain can create the sensation? See if you can just marvel at it, the way like a 2-year-old child might marvel at like a lawnmower or something like that. I was looking for a good analogy, so I can't think of any other ones. But like whatever a child might be obsessed with, you know, horses or elephants, or maybe it was a lawnmower. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with you or even that sensation or where the sensation is at. Um, it's just often when it's neuroplastic, your brain misinterpreting the danger. Have you ever seen the movie The Matrix? There's a scene where Keanu Reeves is in the waiting room waiting to talk to the Oracle, and he sees this 10-year-old kid bending a spoon with his brain. And the kid hits his hands on the spoon and says, "You try." All you need to do is realize the truth. There is no spoon. It's the same thing with us in a sense. We need to realize the truth. There's no damage in the sensation. The sensation is just a sensation. And no matter what happens to the pain or the sensation in this moment, whether it goes up or whether it goes down, like the stock market, it doesn't matter go up or goes down. What matters is what happens in the long term. It's the same thing with pain. It doesn't matter what happens in the moment. So in the moment, we can just observe it. And see if you can pay attention to the pain if you're willing. If you're not ready to do that today, that's okay. But just notice it. You're just trying to exist with it because it's not dangerous. When I was a kid, I was hanging out in my backyard with my friend, and there was a bug, and I was going to kill the bug. But my wise friend said, "Why can't we just live in harmony with it? It's the same way, kind of the sensations in our body." We know it isn't dangerous now, so we can live in harmony with it, knowing it will pass. And the more we practice this, the more our brain will begin to trust the safety that we have. So if you're willing to pay attention to that sensation, we don't want to pay attention to it like in the way you do when you're studying for a test with like scrutiny and intensity. You just want to pay attention with a real sense of effortlessness and ease. Like you're lying back in a field watching the clouds passing by overhead, or the way you watch a beautiful sunset. And every time you kick or swing or step or things like that, like any sort of sensation that comes up, we can just look at it like it is the clouds or something that we're experiencing. So sometimes there may be some anxiety that may come up, some fear that may come up while you are actually practicing somatic tracking. But right now, we are just practicing leaning in. How do you feel now? How is your body? We were just thinking about moving or watching the clouds or anything like that. We can even imagine ourselves moving with that sensation and enjoying it, even if we have some fear a little bit still there inside about it. So if you're willing, you can wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes, if that's not too painful, and open your eyes and come back into the room. All right, so that was not perfect, but a little bit of an example of somatic tracking practice, where we are keeping humor, we are keeping lightness, and no fear. We're just looking at what's coming up inside. So what I would also encourage you to do is to continue in this process in our practice of nurturing yourself and noticing yourself in safety. So I like this little picture just because it just kind of seems like it embodies the gentle kindness that we need to be able to have with ourselves in ourselves in order to be curious. So some questions that we can ask of ourselves throughout the day at any point in time to check in to see if we are nurturing ourselves and noticing ourselves. Are you being kind and gentle and compassionate with yourself? Do you take baby steps and then congratulate yourself? Hey, I did that. Do you notice when you have fear come up and attend to that fearful part with the relative safety that you actually have? One way that you can continue to nurture yourself is with using those pattern interrupts. So anytime that you're starting to feel one sensation that's really loud and you're not ready to somatic track that one sensation and meet it and be in permission of it, then go lean into other sensations and feelings, because we want to broaden the mind's eye. It has been so like narrowly fixated and focused on hypervigilant about attending to the chronic symptoms that we've had. We've got to kind of show it there's more going on there than just that. Sometimes the pattern interrupt is just moving a little bit anyway, even if we feel like just staying really, really still. But just a little bit of movement sometimes is enough to prove to our brain that we're actually safe. Sometimes even I just stretch and open my chest, because obviously if I can do that, there's not a bear or somebody coming at me that I need to protect my chest area. So that's just a little tool. There's lots of little exercises you can do like that. And we want to continue to expose ourselves in baby steps to normal sensations with safety reappraisal. Noticing the things we've been avoiding, right, because we haven't thought it's safe, makes my sensation too loud. And we want to, in baby steps, move toward those things that actually, they don't have that much power. Our brain has just decided that it does. And we can use healthy distraction when pain is high. Warm bath, weighted blanket, anything that we could use to help distract. But notice if that's all we're doing and we're not doing any exposure. Reach out for connection with yourself, with others, or with God. And then maybe just continue practicing life in a different way. Maybe you need more play in your life, more fun. Maybe you could do something that you wouldn't normally think of as being fun, like doing the dishes or vacuuming, but could you make it fun? Like, just to continue to build more evidence of your relative safety. So now we're going to talk a little bit about troubleshooting. Things we're like, uh-oh, what do we do now? This picture I just picked because it's like, well, the ball's dropped. What happened? What happened with my swing? Why didn't I return the ball back? These are things we can be curious about. So some of the troubleshooting things we can attend to are things that are barriers to healing. One is when we do any of all the skills we've talked about with an ulterior motive. When we are really trying to make sure it happens for the sake of the outcome. And so that ulterior motive of outcome dependence will often kind of keep us still in this fear-pain cycle. Or tracking with intensity, where it's like, no, I've got to do this. I've got to practice this thing in order for it to go away, which still has some outcome dependence attached to it. But that intensity is still going to keep that limbic system quite activated. Other things you could do is to help your doctors understand what you're trying to do. I put a couple of websites up here that are also on that QR code at the end, because sometimes doctors or even our loved ones, they don't really understand what we're trying to do, and they can still continue to feed the old cycle of fear. We really want to help normalize for the world what's called either psychophysiologic or neuroplastic or nervous system reactions in our bodies, because we have them all the time. Everybody, even without people that don't have any chronic pain or chronic symptoms, have some of these come up. And then really noticing emotional stress and the connection that we have with that and our chronic symptoms. And I just put on there curablehealth.com, and the app Curable address some of that, as well as Alan Gordon's podcast, Tell Me About Your Pain. Okay, so next steps. Lean in to movement and going and doing things slowly, baby steps, to safe things that maybe you avoided at one point in time or another. And if you need to, in order to just have somebody kind of walk with you by your side, you might find some sort of mind-body trained practitioner who understands what we've been talking about, if that's needed. One thing I share with my clients is there's a whole lot more layers to why certain things happen in our lives that we might need to address. And I use this illustration of the tree. So it's easy for us to notice what's loudest, which is often our fruit, the fruit. In the medical world, it would be called symptoms. Other types of fruit are our emotions or behaviors, which could also be symptoms. Underneath of that, so a lot of things that even fuel our fruit, or sometimes there's a feedback loop between them, are our thoughts and our beliefs about ourselves, about others, our situation, or even God. Underneath of that, the state of our heart, like what's going on inside, like our desires, our passions, what we're treasuring, what we're hoping in, what we love, and even what we worship, all of those are going on in tandem, and we're not always evaluating if our thoughts and beliefs are in line with those things or not. Sometimes they're all mixed bag, and then we're dysregulated. And then we really do need to kind of be mindful of what got us to the fruit that we might have, because often a lot of it has to do with what's coming out from the soil. So that's often our under 18 years, our family of origin. That's what the FOO is. Any sort of trauma we've experienced, trauma can be defined as too much, too fast, or too little, too late. So any of that might be experienced in the body, any sort of abuse or neglect that we might have experienced, even subtly, and any less than nurturing situations or relationships, those all really affected our nervous system and kind of the programming of our nervous system. And so even if, there's our heart's desires and we know that we want to be able to be a certain way, some of our thoughts and beliefs are tied to our soil, our under 18 years, and then can be sabotaging growth and healing. And at the top, when there is a challenging situation, if you want to think of it like a hailstorm, or whatever that proverbial hailstorm is in your life, what's going to often come out is the soil, what the root was. So our under 18 years. So it's got something good to kind of evaluate. You can use this to kind of be curious in any certain situation as a tool. And attending to our past is really necessary in order for us to be able to heal for the future, so we can let go of old patterns. So if you haven't done some of that work, really healing from anything that even was just less than nurturing or really hard, then I would encourage you to do so, because without that, there's a whole part of our programming that is still wanting to keep the feedback loop going in our limbic system, that we are not safe, we can't change or move on. And so sometimes we've really got to attend to that. And why we might be helped by attending to our past, because any sort of trauma, abuse, neglect, or less than nurturing treatment under the age of 18 can amplify symptoms. There's a lot of studies about this. Doctors have, and you can look it up online, what's called the ACEs scale, the Adverse Childhood Experiences Scale. And those are some extreme examples of trauma, but there just is a lot of evidence that if we've gone through a number of things, they can cause the symptoms that we have. So skills recap from the webinar: we practice curiosity, compassion, and openness, nociceptive pain, noticing activation of limbic system. Week 1, going through automatic negative thoughts, or the 5 F's that keep us in that fear pain cycle, evidences of neuroplastic symptoms we can keep track of, and breathing exercises. We went into week 2 with safety reappraisal, outcome independence, maintaining that kind of indifference or neutrality, leaning into pleasant sensation. Week 3, noticing stressors or triggers, and even shifting our perception even to a degree via safety reappraisal. So we are triaging more accurately. And then naming, allowing, and listening to emotions without fear, caring for what they need if possible. And then last week, noticing the way in which you do life. And then we introduced somatic tracking. And then today, I would say, if needed, attend with counseling to any sort of trauma, abuse, neglect, or anything else from your past. and learn to lean into movement and exposure to safe things, baby step by baby step, while doing somatic tracking, if you're willing. So, okay, so if there was any homework, I would say it would be to do those things. But since this is our last session, I just wanted to congratulate you guys for joining us, watching the whole time. And again, there's so many resources of where I got some of my information from and where you can find some more information if you needed that on this QR code with many different links and YouTube videos and stuff like that. And I just wanted to say thank you